a lot of people seem to believe there's a ton of risk involved with Trey Young playing for the Washington Wizards this season. I don't really think it's as risky as people are making it out to be, and this is definitely what needed to happen.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you are locked on to the Washington Wizards, where you're part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team free and available every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel's giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger potential win with a college basketball parlay boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Ben Strober riding solo for this edition of the Locked On Wizards podcast. Got a lot to get to today, and obviously the big news that we got yesterday. Trey Young will make his debut in a Washington Wizards uniform. He also got ejected, which I thought was electric. I thought it was incredible. But in today's episode, I tell you why him playing isn't as risky as a lot of you are making it out to be. A lot of people think this will kill the Wizards' tank. It will prevent them from getting the player they need in the draft. I'm going to maybe help ease some of those concerns for you today. But let's start with Trey Young. You are playing the Utah Jazz on Thursday at home. So he breaks the news himself practically. He's on his podcast or whatever it was. He posted on his story basically confirming March 5th, the date that the Wizards play the Utah Jazz at home. That's the first time you'll see Trey Young officially don that Wizards uniform, get on the court, and play with a lot of these guys. And to me, I think this is electrifying for this fan base. I think this is exactly what a lot of these fans needed to see in terms of what's this fit going to look like next season. What is it going to look like when you have Trey Young as your lead guard out there? Are you going to look a lot more competent than you've been offensively over the past couple weeks? Yeah, you're damn right you will. What is it going to look like long term? And I know obviously you're not going to have Alex Sarr out there. You're not going to have Anthony Davis out there. But I think it's important to see what you have in this guy, because ultimately this summer you probably will see the Wizards make some type of decision on Trey Young about a contract extension. And when those conversations can begin in early July, I think some of the things that you see on tape from this year will help make the Wizards, or will help make that decision a little bit easier for the Wizards here. But in terms of offensive production, and outside of the last two games, I think the Wizards' young guys have actually performed pretty well. I think we've seen some pretty big contributions, especially from Bilal Koulibaly, who had a season-high 23 points last night, so you love to see that. But in terms of offensive production in a lot of these games, there's been plenty of turnovers, including 20 in a couple of these games, and just the efficiency has been low as of late. And a big reason why, I mean, it's kind of the same reason that you've seen throughout the entirety of the year, is not having a true lead point guard on this roster. And obviously Sarr being out is a big reason why they've also tailed off offensively. But a lot of people will beg the question saying, this is fine. We need to lose every game possible going forward the rest of the season. We need to guarantee that we finish bottom four, maybe even bottom three, so you give yourself those 14% chance odds at landing the number one overall pick. And I hear you on that. I totally agree with you. However, when you're playing the Utah Jazz at home, a team that is now allegedly had NBA doctors sent out there to really check if Lauri Markkanen is hurt enough, Jaren Jackson Jr. out for the season. I guess you'll see a handful of Ace Bailey out there. But this is a team that you have a game and a half cushion on right now in the Utah Jazz. And they got this close, and I mean this close, to beating the Nuggets last night. They lost that game by 3. That would have been massive. If they ended up winning that game over Denver, it would have gave the Wizards a 2.5 game cushion going into this one. You play the Jazz twice. And I know we have the same situation that you have here that we ran into with the Pacers, where you say, okay, you have 2 games with the Pacers. You got to find a way to split. And obviously this is a situation where I think the Wizards do need to find a way to split with the Jazz. However, this is not this weird back-to-back thing where they're both playing these games at home. Wizards haven't played the Jazz yet this year. You play each team from the West twice. They're going to play the Jazz at home on Thursday with Trey Young making his debut. And then you're going to see the Wizards play the Jazz again a couple weeks later on the road in Salt Lake City. I feel like the game at home on Thursday, I would chalk it up as Washington winning that game. It just feels like if the Wizards are going to win any more games throughout the rest of the season, it's probably going to be one like that. You're going to have energy in that building. You're going to have a lively pro-Wizards crowd out there. And honestly, it's going to be kind of refreshing to see because outside of John Wall night over a month and a half ago, that was really the only lively Wizards crowd I could say I've experienced this year at Capital One Arena. And it's going to look really different. There are going to be people that are energized. I've had people in the building I'm in right now tell me they've already got tickets to this game to see Trey Young. That's the type of player he is. That's why you bring him into the organization, not just because he's going to make your young players around you better. He's a box office guy. And if you're a Wizards organization that's trying to say we are a serious organization, you go out and get a player with this type of caliber who had this as his preferred destination. That is exactly what happened here with Trey Young in this situation. Now, when you look at strength of schedule, we've talked a little bit about this throughout the year with the other tanking teams, T-word teams, whatever you want to call it. New Orleans has already pretty much climbed up in the board here, and they're probably going to get passed by Dallas and maybe even Memphis at this point, maybe Chicago as well. New Orleans is up to 19 wins on the season, but we know they've started to get healthy. A former Wizard, Sadiq Bey, he is hooping for the Pelicans right now. So really your main competition here, if you're Washington, in terms of finishing bottom four, is Utah standing in the way right now of that. The Nets as well, because I don't know if the Wizards are going to be able to catch Indiana and Sacramento. Those teams seem like they have this on lock. They seem like they can lose every single game possible. I don't really understand it. Like, these teams have these secret weapons that they've been using to really lose these games. And, like, credit to the Wizards, they've been playing hard. They've been playing decent competitive basketball at times. And, like, especially the last two nights, you see them being chippy with a team like Houston that's really good. One of the best defensive teams in the entire NBA right now. You love to see a performance like that. You don't want to see the Wizards lay down without a fight. And I know some of you want to see that because it'll guarantee that they lose the games. I think they're perfectly fine. We already heard from Brian Keefe, the head coach of the Wizards, yesterday that Trey Young will play on a minutes restriction between 17 and 20 minutes. But when you look at the remaining schedules of a lot of these teams throughout the remainder of the season, Washington is in a favorable position. They have the 8th hardest remaining schedule, according to Tankathon.com. You have 2 matchups with Detroit upcoming. You have a really tough stretch of like 8 games where I don't think the Wizards are going to win, maybe not any of those games. 2 with Detroit, 1 with OKC, 1 with Boston, 1 with New York, 1 with Cleveland, and another one with the Lakers. And then here are the games that stand in your way. You obviously have 2 upcoming here with the Jazz in this month. You play them twice. You play Brooklyn one more time. You play New Orleans one more time, who's considered one of the easier teams, but they have no incentive to lose games right now. They are actively trying to win. So that seems like a situation where the Wizards probably lose a game like that if they play the lineups the way they have over the last couple weeks or so. Chicago is on there twice. They stink. They've been really bad as of recent. They went from a team that was flirting with the play-in to looking like they might bottom out the rest of the way and get in the lottery. So ideally, try to split both of those. So let's say you split with Utah and you split with Chicago. You are at 18 wins on the season. But when you look at the remaining schedules of everybody else, Indiana's the only one that really has a better beat on this in terms of a tougher schedule. Indiana has the 6th hardest schedule remaining the rest of the season, according to Tankathon. Something interesting about Sacramento, they have the 29th hardest schedule, so technically they have the 2nd easiest schedule remaining the rest of the way. And now, I don't even know, because like, who is Sacramento really going to beat? The easy games it lists, I guess, is 1 against Utah, 2 against Brooklyn, 1 against Indiana, 1 against Chicago, and 2 against New Orleans. But with them in the way of that, like, I don't see them winning much at all. I know they won 2 in a row somehow at one point, so who knows? Maybe things can change. You still have like 22 games left in the season. So there's that to look forward to, but you're not going to see Trey Young play back-to-backs. You're going to see him playing very little minutes. And what we know about Trey Young is he's going to provide you the stability that you need offensively in terms of playmaking and distributing, and he'll score the basketball too. I expect him to have a pretty good scoring output on Thursday. You're not going to get a whole lot from Young when it comes to defensive play. And obviously the Wizards are very deficient defensively right now. There's a reason they've been one of the worst defenses in the league, and if not the worst defense in the league, especially defending the perimeter. It is ridiculous when it comes to that stuff, how bad they've been. Moreover, on the strength of schedule stuff, the 20th hardest schedule, so a top 10 easiest schedule right now, Brooklyn has 2 with the Kings. They have 1 with the Pacers. They have 2 with the Bucks, who've been bottoming out. They have 1 with the Grizzlies. They have 1 more with us, and then 2 against Portland. Now, Portland has fallen into this super easy category, and I think a big reason for that is because Danny Avdija has been out as of recent with a back injury for Portland. But when it comes to these teams that are bottoming out right now, I think the Wizards are still in a good spot. And I don't think adding Trey Young to the equation to play 15 minutes a night is going to change what they have in mind. Because we've seen over like the blueprint these last couple of nights, the Wizards can remain relatively competitive against a lot of these teams for 3 quarters or so and then tail off in the final quarter, whatever it may be. I think it was the Raptors game. They got killed in the third quarter, which is why they lost that game. Yesterday, they were just kind of down by 12 the whole game. It felt like they were down a lot more, but they were actually down by 12. So it ended up shaping up to be one of those type of nights for the Wizards. But I think when it comes down to it, the Wizards are still not a good basketball team. They're bad defensively. They still have a lot of young players that are playing different roles right now. You see even Will Riley getting reps handling the basketball and trying to see what he can do to develop his game. You're still having guys in and out of the lineup. Sarr isn't even playing right now. Tristan Vucevic didn't play yesterday. You had Julian Reese, a guy that had never touched the NBA floor, get starter minutes for you. So it just goes to show you, like, you're at the point of the season where you're going to see some wild stuff on the floor. I think just because you see Trey Young out there, I don't think it means you're going to kill your tank or you're going to get yourself in a position where you're unable to succeed. That's just the way it is. All right, when we come back, we continue this conversation here. The Wizards are going to be just fine when it comes to bottoming out, I think. This episode of Locked On Wizards is sponsored by BetterHelp. March is a time to celebrate women, especially around International Women's Day, and recognize just how much they carry at work, in relationships, and families, and all the unseen roles they step into every single day. It's easy to celebrate that strength, but it's just as important to make space for their emotional well-being. And honestly, that goes for all of us, everybody here. I like to think about my mom and how much she carries without always saying so, and it makes me think how many of us are doing the same thing right now. The roles we play, the expectations we carry, the pressure we don't always talk about. Therapy can help with all of that, creating balance, setting healthy boundaries, and supporting your overall well-being. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served worldwide, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works. Fill out a short questionnaire match with licensed therapists, and if it's not the right fit, you can switch at any time. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Continued here on the Locked On Wizards podcast, we thank everyone that likes and subscribes and listens to the channel every day. Be sure to check out the Everydayer Club as well. I'll link to that in the show notes in the description here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Moreover, on the Wizards in this bottoming out thing that we're talking about, how a lot of people feel that there's risk involved with having Trey Young play in these games. What you're getting out of Young isn't something that's necessarily going to make you win. Now, we knew this was a move that was made with next year, playing more competitive games next year in mind. And obviously Anthony Davis is a much larger part of that equation as well. So when it comes down to it, Trey Young is a guy that's going to just help you see what the fit looks like. And now that you don't have Sarr out there, like, it's a little bit less enticing, in all honesty, for me at least right now. Like, you want to see that combination of a pick and roll with Sarr and Trey Young. But the fact that you're not even going to have like an everyday center out there, most likely, because I don't know what the status of Tristan Vucevic will be. He was out with a hip thing yesterday. So hopefully you get him back in the lineup at least on Thursday when you take on Utah. But if it is indeed Julian Reese out there for the Thursday matchup against Utah, it's not going to be easy for those two to operate out of the pick and roll, but it might be an opportunity where you can just see Young attack the basket and find open shooters on the outside. Koulibaly is hitting it well from the outside right now, so maybe it's going to be a bigger opportunity for him to get some more of those catch and shoot looks. Keyshawn George, I think, has done a really nice job. Like, his three-point shot is back. I said it yesterday that George, his three-point shot is so back right now. It was cold for a little bit, but the last couple of performances, he's knocking down those open shots like we saw throughout the majority of the earlier part of the season. I think this could benefit Trey Johnson as well, and I think he had a couple of encouraging performances. Yesterday wasn't as great for Johnson, so you want to see him get the opportunity to play with one of these lead playmakers right now, because we're kind of like in the same thing that we saw earlier in the season with Trey Johnson, where he's being asked to do a lot right now. And for a player like him that plays really well off the basketball, I do want to see him grow on the ball. Don't get me wrong about that. But in terms of production off the basketball, we know that's going to benefit Trey Johnson, and there's nobody better to have out there than Trey Young for it. It's just 15 to 20 minutes a night. It's not going to make a big deal. If he were playing 30 to 35 minutes, I'd say, okay, this could get a little bit dicey here. But this Wizards team is not going to win very many games the rest of the season. They might get one over Utah on Thursday. I think they're going to blow out Utah on Thursday, if we're being honest, but that we can make that a whole other conversation. If you split with Utah and then you also, lose to New Orleans and you lose to the Nets one more time, even if you beat one or two of those teams and you get to 19 wins, I think the way the schedules line up and the other teams that are tanking playing each other, I think that should guarantee the Wizards a bottom 4 finish. I find it very hard to believe that they finish with just 20 wins, that they would find themselves outside the bottom 4. But even if you do land 5 in the draft order, you have a 0.6% chance of losing the pick. So a very, very, very insanely small. And obviously we all have PTSD from it. We don't want to even see a possibility of it happening. But you'd like to see this Wizards team drop down to the 3rd spot. So you have those equal odds of trying to get the first overall pick. And I think since 2019, I think the 3rd worst record has actually won the lottery the most or been in the top 2 the most. So maybe that's the gold standard that everyone is looking for here in this situation. And I think the Wizards can get there. I think they can get to that point. But it's going to be exciting. Overall, we need to take a moment to sit back and reflect and just think about where this Wizards organization has been over the last 3 seasons or so. It started out with a trade for Chris Paul, which eventually turned into Jordan Poole. Poole becomes McCollum. And now you have Trey Young, a former 4-time All-Star on your team. He's 27 years old, and he is bought in to what this organization is trying to do. Everybody is on the same page in this situation. The front office to the players. They're trying to establish a culture, and they still want to be competitive as possible in a lot of these games that they have going forward. Well, the goal is ideally for them to lose these games. We know that. We understand that. They have the ability to make that happen. I promise you. Like, you're not playing Indiana every single night. You're not playing Sacramento every single night. Those teams are extreme outliers in this situation, and Indiana proved that firsthand when we played them in a back-to-back a week ago. This front office knows how important this draft pick is, this lottery is, because you do need to find one of those game-changing franchise players, somebody that you can look to be your cornerstone piece for years to come. This is a loaded class as well. If you fall to 5 or 6, maybe you're not going to get the cornerstone piece, but you're going to find a piece. You're going to find a guy that's going to be here for the long term, most likely. Even if you fall to 5 and you get a point guard option like Kingston Fleming's, then I don't know, maybe that changes the perception around giving an extension to Trey Young or not. Maybe you find your answer at point guard there. You get somebody younger. You have Trae come in and play for a year or 2. We don't know. We just don't know what the plan will be in this situation, but I've always loved this idea of bringing Trey Young in here. And I guess when I heard the rumor at first, I don't think I was necessarily on board with it, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense to me. And the more it always made sense that he was going to end up playing, because you want to establish some camaraderie. You want to see how these guys play on the floor together. I think that's really important for this Wizards team, not just for now, for getting better throughout the last 22 games of the season, because you don't want to just be out there playing with no purpose every single night. It felt like last week that some of those games they played, there was almost no purpose when they're out there. So not only is there going to be a little bit more purpose in those minutes that are being played by Trey Young, but you're going to find what the purpose looks like for next season. Next year, you're taking the training wheels off this thing. There's going to be an expectation you go out there and you win. You compete. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win 50 games. I think that's pretty unlikely. I don't think you're going to have enough health to win 50 games, but I think this team's got to at least make the play-in next year. That should be the minimum goal for this team. And if they somehow end up in the top 6, man, that would be incredible. That would be a huge step forward for this team. Just to get a playoff experience under their belt, that would be massive for these young guys and their development. But bottom line, Trey Young playing in a couple of these games, maybe he plays in 15 or something like that over the final 22 games or whatever we have left here. It's not going to make a big difference. You're not going to win a whole bunch of games. Do not worry about it. I wouldn't worry about a thing. I think you should sit back and enjoy some of these Trey Young minutes and help you get ready for next season. Get pumped up, because you just talk about it, Bullets fever is coming back. And when you have a guy like Trey Young that's out there, you're going to feel the Bullets fever, the energy in Capital One Arena tomorrow. And I think that'll be a good feeling, something that you Wizards fans deserve. You deserve to feel good about your franchise and what the future looks like. We've been preaching it for years now and starting to see some of that stuff materialize, and Trey Young is the first step in that. That'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Wizards. We'll have another one out for you later tonight. Wizards and Magic. We'll have the post-game coverage for you, of course, here on the Locked On Wizards podcast. For now, I'm Ben Strober. I'm signing off.